Hi friends, it's Jules. Welcome to Jules Reads. It's been a little bit and I'm going to jump right into a February reading recap. I'm going to talk about the books I finished in February. I have 5 books that I finished, and then I'm going to talk about the books that I'm currently finished, which I've actually finished 2 more in March already, and then a couple books that I hauled, and then movies and TV that I enjoyed in February. So let's get started with the main, I don't say the main event, the main, I don't know, Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I finally read this. I've been reading Stephen King for 40 years probably, and I have never read this one. It's disturbing. Check the trigger warnings. It's probably the most disturbing Stephen King I've ever read. I did like it. I listened to the audio and the narrator was fantastic. But definitely check trigger warnings. There is some kid stuff, some animal stuff, so just know that if you haven't read it yet. This is definitely not my favorite Stephen King. My favorite Stephen King is 11/22/63, but I did like this. I feel like about 10% of this book is the horror vibes and those things that are really disturbing. The other 90% is character development and setting the scene, which is, those are the parts that I really enjoy and why I like Stephen King's writing. I did end up watching the movie, so I'll go ahead and just talk about those now. I watched the 1989 version, and then I watched the 2000, I believe it's either 2017 or 2019 version. The 1989 version is definitely more in line with the book. Stephen King did write the adaptation for it. It has a little bit of a difference to it and a few things, but it pretty closely follows the book. Whereas the 2000s version, it goes off the rails a little bit, and I didn't enjoy it as much as the 1989 version. I did still like it. I liked both, not loved, and the child actor in the 1989 version, holy cow, he was amazing. I don't know how they got that little boy to act like that. He was amazing. And then the 2000s version, the ending was so different. That's where it lost me at the ending. But I did enjoy my experience reading this and then watching the movies. I did also watch the Bloodlines one that I think was on Hulu or Netflix. That was okay. It goes back to like the 60s in this area of course it's Maine. And that was probably my least favorite. If you're going to watch one, watch the 1989 version. Of course, there's going to be some things that are weird because it's 1989. But I had a good time reading this. And if you're a Stephen King fan and you haven't read it yet, I would read it. All right, so the next one I read is Louise Erdrich, Love Medicine. I don't have really a lot to say about this. I've read one other Louise Erdrich before, and I really enjoyed that. That was The Sentence. And this one I did not love as much, and I think it's all on me. Like, it was my state of mind while I was reading this. I couldn't keep my attention with it, and it takes place in, I think it's North Dakota on a reservation, and it's multi-generational, which that is not my, that's something, a trope or a thing in a book I don't like. So that's probably why it didn't hold my attention, but people love this, so if you like Louise Erdrich, I would definitely check this out. This is one of her earlier books, and I bought a used copy, but I don't know. I do want to read more Louise Erdrich. I live in Minnesota. She is an author from Minnesota, and she has a bookstore nearby, which I'd like to go to. It is really lovely. All right, I'll talk about the next one. Is actually, I only did it on audio, and I decided not to like it not to buy it because I didn't really like it. And this is an unpopular opinion, but that is Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. And maybe it was because the audio, but the little girl in the book really annoyed me. I didn't feel like there was much character development. I thought the characters were boring. I learned while listening to this that I am more of a character-driven reader. That's what I prefer over plot. I think a book can have no plot to me, and if the characters are interesting, I will like it. Whereas vice versa, if there's a lot of plot but the characters are just meh, I'm probably not going to like it. So I think that's what's happening there. It is a lot of people's favorite book of all time, so that is an unpopular opinion, and don't listen to me. I'm sure everybody knows what Jurassic Park is about, so I'm not going to talk about what it's about. Okay, the next two books are nonfictions, which is not like me. I don't really like to read nonfictions. I've read so many in my life when I was in school, and I'm just kind of burnt out on nonfictions. The first one is Radical Respect by Kim Scott. I actually got to meet her, lucky enough at a work event to meet her, and she presented this book and then the first one, which was Radical Candor. If you're in the business corporate world, I would highly recommend both of these books, especially if you're in leadership. I would recommend them. This one talks about bias versus prejudice versus bullying, and I really liked it. A lot of things kind of hit home for some things, but I really liked it. She is a delight, and I highly recommend connecting with her on LinkedIn. And you can, I think, subscribe to her newsletter, but I did enjoy that. And then Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Katherine May. I liked this. This is a very quiet book, and by quiet, I mean kind of slow. It kind of reads a little bit like Braiding Sweetgrass, not quite as good as Braiding Sweetgrass. Not nearly as good as Braiding Sweetgrass, but that's what I mean, like just more about slowing down and just resting. And it's okay to rest and relax, and we don't need permission to do that. Let's see if I can find some quotes out of here. And actually, I should not read on my channel, but I keep doing it. Let's go. In moments of helplessness, I always seem to travel north. I have a kind of boreal wanderlust, an urge towards the top of the world where the ice intrudes. In the cold, I find I can think straight. The air feels clean and uncluttered. I have faith in the practicality of the north, its ability to prepare and endure, the peaks and troughs of its season. The warm weather destinations of the south seem unreal to me, its calendar too unchanging. I love the revolutions that winter brings. That's the writing in this, which is beautiful. I really did like it. It's a quick read, and it's a nonfiction. I think she has cancer. She's going through a moving personal narrative shot through with lessons from literature, mythology, and the natural world. May's story offers instruction on the transformative power of rest and retreat. Illumination emerges from many sources. Let's see. Yeah, she talks about C.S. Lewis, Sylvia Plath, swimming in icy waters. Yeah, I can't remember if she's going through cancer. Anyway, she's kind of forced to rest and retreat. She has a sickness. So I did enjoy this. I'm not going to rate it. I don't like to rate nonfiction. And I'm kind of feeling like not reading books at all anymore. I just feel like that's so judgmental. And like it might change from day to day. I'll know at the end of the year what my favorites were. None of these will be on my favorites of the year. All right, so currently reading, I've actually finished 2 books already. And that is The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. I will talk more about this in my March wrap-up. And I do want to watch the movie. And then I finished on audio The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury, and I will talk more about that. And I did like it. I'm looking for a physical copy of it. I can only seem to find mass market paperback, which I'm not going to buy. The font is way too small for me. And the other book that I am almost in the middle of is What Was She Thinking by Zoe Heller. It is kind of renamed Notes on a Scandal, if you've ever seen that movie with Kate Blanchett and Judi Dench. I'm liking it. It's kind of trigger warnings for this. And I'm weirdly liking it. Like, I don't normally like that trope. So, it is about a school teacher, that's the Judi Dench character, a little bit older, that kind of becomes entranced with this younger school teacher who is also having an affair with a student. So that's the trigger part. Yeah. If you don't like reading about that, then you wouldn't like this book. I don't normally either, but I'm liking the writing of this, and I like the Judi Dench character, the older woman. She is just bonkers. So I'm just enjoying that, and I want to watch the movie after I finish reading this. I usually am in the middle of 4 or 5 books, so I need to get going on more books. I've been spending so much time in my craft room that my reading has kind of gone off the rails. I have 2 book club books, my real life book club books, that I need to get reading. So those are definitely on my March radar, and I'm going to do a March TBR video, so look for that in the next few days. Let's talk about books I hauled. I have, okay, so yeah, I bought Pet Sematary, so that's one. I have 4 books that I hauled in February. Pet Sematary, and then I already have a copy of this, but it's more of a leather-bound, fancier copy, so I bought one that I can annotate, the Penguin Classics. This is Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray. I have this on audio as well, which I want to do in tandem, so I really pay attention to this. I know I'm going to love it. So I need to pay attention, and I want to annotate this book, which is why I bought these are really inexpensive if you ever need a classics book. The Penguin Classics are very cheap. All right, and this is another book I bought in February, and it is our book club pick for March, and it's Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. We task the next person that picks the book. We pick a theme, and then they pick a book based on that theme. So the theme was Ireland for March, and this is the book that was picked. And this says it's the Booker Prize of 2023. I don't know anything about it, but I do need to read that in March. And then this other one is Ira Levine's A Kiss Before Dying, and I was out doing some Free Little Library scoping. I actually ended up donating books. I didn't take any books out of the Free Little Libraries, but I just needed to get out of the house. It's winter here in Minnesota, so that's what I decided to do. And this was in the pile of books to donate because I got books from friends to donate, and this must have been one of their books. And I'm like, I want that book, which they said, if you want any of them, take them, and then I can donate it later. But I just bought Stepford Wives, and so I thought this would be good to read. What does it mean when there's a black mark on the bottom? I know it's like it's a cheap book or not resellable, or I don't know what it means, but there is that on it. If you know, let me know. So those are the books I hauled. Okay, let's talk about TV. I have a lot. Normally I used to do this weekly, and I think I'll get back to that and maybe include a vlog once a week or something once I start getting outside and going for walks and all that. But also I made this little thing with all of the information. All right, so I watched Annihilation, which I talked about that in my vlog, so I won't talk about that anymore here. We finished Peaky Blinders. Obsessed with Cillian Murphy, like all the rest of us. Can't wait for the movie. It's a very intense, dark show and can be pretty gory. We only would watch like one episode a night just because of how dark and intense it was, but I love it. I cried a lot when we finished it. I watched The Killer, and that was the second time watching it. I really like that movie. It's an assassination type movie, but I'm also going to say it's a really quiet movie because you're just kind of in his head the whole time, and it's just, I really like it. I think that's on Netflix now. It's somewhere where it was free, and I was like, oh, I should watch that. Dexter Original Sin. Now, I am a huge Dexter, the original show, fan, and I liked the sequel where he's in Alaska. This one I'm having a hard time with, and I don't know what it is. I was telling my stepson that I'm like, I feel like it's cheesy, and he's like, well, yeah, Dexter's, the whole thing is like kind of cheesy. Or I think he was asking me why I thought it was cheesy, and I can't explain it. I don't know. I'm just not getting into it, but I keep trying. And then Inside number 9, we've finished season 9. They have 9 seasons. That is in my top 5 shows of all time. If you've never watched it, it is on BritBox. I watch BritBox through my Apple TV subscription. But Inside number 9, it is a dark comedy. Each episode is a standalone, so you could hop in anywhere, but I do suggest going in order, especially towards the end. The last 3 episodes of that season 9 are some of the most brilliant episodes of TV I've ever seen. I love it. I will watch it over and over. The 2 creators and writers and actors are amazing, and I just feel like this show deserves more attention. All right, the next movie we watched Before Sunset, which is the sequel to Before Sunrise, and I loved it. They're just a couple that wanders the streets of Paris, and I loved it. It is just dialogue the whole time. There's no real plot. I loved it. And then we watched Here. That's the Tom Hanks one and Robin Wright. And it's on Netflix. It's based on a graphic novel, and it follows the graphic novel pretty closely with the way it's being filmed. It's kind of a different way to film things, which I think is why it's getting such mixed reviews. I really liked it. My husband said he wishes there would have been more of the other stories. It goes through, like, it's showing a piece of land, let's just say it's an acre, over hundreds and hundreds of years. And he wishes it would have shown some of the older storylines more. It focuses on the Tom Hanks, Robin Wright storyline. I loved it. I cried. Yeah, I highly recommend it. And then we watched Midnight in Paris. I watched that probably 3 times a year. I love that movie. I love Paris, so I just had to watch that again. We started watching our national parks. We only watched 1 episode, and we thought it was the U.S. national parks, but it's all over the world. It is fascinating. The animals in it are fascinating. I have no idea how they capture these videos, but we are enjoying that. And then we started on a Ken Burns documentary journey, and we have watched Leonardo da Vinci, Central Park 5, The Dust Bowl, and Ben Franklin. Leonardo da Vinci is definitely my favorite. I liked Central Park 5, and then The Dust Bowl, it was so heavy. I was sobbing the whole time. I mean, it kind of puts things in perspective as to what people went through in the past versus what we're going through now a little bit. But I couldn't even watch the second. It's in 2 parts. I couldn't watch the second part. I'm like, it's too sad. And then Ben Franklin, I just thought it was kind of boring. So I didn't watch the second part of that one either. But I love Leonardo da Vinci, and then I did like Central Park 5. It's weird to say I loved it because it is about some boys in New York City in the late 80s being wrongfully convicted of a crime they didn't commit. So it's not something to love, but it was very well done. All right, I think that's all I have. I am going to try to do these weekly. If I don't, they might be bi-monthly or monthly. And then I'm going to try and post more here on the channel. I am going to do a TBR for March coming up. And then I also want to do a book to movie adaptations that are coming out in 2025 that I'm looking forward to. So if you're interested in those, please subscribe. I would love to have you here, and I will catch you next time.